Vaheguru Sahib Jiyo Todi mahalaa panjavaa Har bisrat sada khwari Ta kau dhokha kaha beapੈ Ja kau ot tuhari rahav ਹਰ ਬਿਸਰਤ ਸਦਾ ਖਵਾਰੀ ਜਾ ਕੋ ਧੋਖਾ ਕਹਾ ਬਿਆਪੈ ਜਾ ਕੋ ਓਟ ਤੁਹਾਰੀ ਰਹਾਉ ਬਿਨ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਜੋ ਜੀਵਨ ਬਲਨਾ ਸਰਪ ਜੈਸੇ ਅਰਜਾਰੀ ਨਵ ਖੰਡਨ ਕੋ ਰਾਜ ਕਮਾਵੈ ਅੰਤ ਚਲੈ ਗੋ ਹਾਰੀ ਗੁਣ ਨਿਧਾਨ ਗੁਣ ਤਿਨਹੀ ਗਾਏ ਜਾ ਕੋ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਧਾਰੀ ਸੋ ਸੁਖੀਆ ਧਨ ਉਸ ਜਨਮਾ ਨਾਨਕ ਤਿਸ ਬਲਹਾਰੀ ਗੁਣ ਨਿਧਾਨ ਗੁਣ ਤਿਨਹੀ ਗਾਏ ਜਾ ਕੋ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਧਾਰੀ ਸੋ ਸੁਖੀਆ ਧਨ ਉਸ ਜਨਮਾ ਨਾਨਕ ਤਿਸ ਬਲਹਾਰੀ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, today's Pavan Pitra Hukamnama Sahib from Sachkhand Sri Harmandir Sahib is on Ang 711. Blessed to us by Than Sri Guru Arjun Dev Ji, Gareeb Nawaz Sache Paatshah. Than Sri Guru Arjun Dev Ji Paatshah Ji has blessed us this Hukamnama Sahib in Toddee Raag. And today Paatshah Ji is saying to us, Har bisrat sada khwari, har bisrat. Bisrat means to forget. Har here referring to Hari meaning Vaheguru. Har bisrat sada khwari. Sada khwari. Sada means at all times, every moment. Then Pach khwari. Khwari means to be ruined. When we start to suffer. Sangat Ji, when you look at this translation, it's translated to that sada here translated to forever, if you look at the translations. But Sangat Ji, har bisrat sada khwari, that it doesn't mean forever in the sense of future tense, because somebody could have forgotten Vaheguru Ji in this moment, but in their next moment they start to remember Vaheguru Ji. So then they aren't ruined forever in that way. Forever, a better way of looking at that, a better way of translating that would be sada, meaning in every moment that you forget Vaheguru Ji, and that moment you are ruined. But even if it be the next moment that you remember Vaheguru Ji, you'll be saved. That suffering will end, that will go away. It's because we have come away, because we've disconnected from that truth, and we've started to identify with our body. We've started to identify only with our body, that we are this, that we are our thoughts, that we are our memory, our experiences, that's what we are. We've started to identify that this is who I am, this family is me. And when I say this is me, this as in, and I'm referring to my family, and that's all that I know. That's what it means that I've forgotten that one. But if I know behind that one, there's somebody that has blessed me with this body, that this body is one day going to come to an end. This body goes through constant changes. This body is not stable. My thoughts are not stable. I cannot control my own child's thoughts. I can't say. So there is somebody else that is behind all of this. There's something that where all this has come from. There's someone that is in control of all of this. That one is Vaheguru. And Sangat Ji, and when we forget that Vaheguru Bisrat, Sangat Ji, doesn't mean to forget with our thoughts. Because our thought in this moment could say that, yeah, there must be someone. Yeah, you know what, there is, I believe in a God. But then that one hasn't come into my experience. When that one hasn't yet come into my experience, it's very easy for us to fall from that belief. Because then I can start very easily from a certain situation that I've experienced in life, from certain something that happens. Somebody may get abused, whether it be physically, whether it be then that could be another level physically, being sexual abuse, whatever it is. But then from that experience, that belief can very easily shift, it can change. It can say, actually, I don't believe in God anymore. And today, whoever is believing in God, they have their own understanding of that belief of what God is. And then they will argue with other people over that belief. They will look down at other people for not having that belief. And then there's those as well that say that I don't believe in the existence of that one, of anything being more than just this physical matter. Sangat Ji, then there's those as well. But they are both speaking from a very similar place. It's just whatever conclusions they have come to within their intellect, by whatever conclusion their intellect has come to, let's word it that way, makes more sense. From their experiences, from whatever they have collected, the information they have collected through their five senses, they have come to this conclusion. It's the intellect that comes to conclusions. What Satguru Ji Pacha referred to as the buddhi. So then the buddhi comes to a particular conclusion based on the information that the senses have received, and that for the same is the believer and the non-believer. But Sangat Ji, over here Satguru Ji Pacha is talking about Har Bisrat, that when that Vaheguru Ji isn't in any form, isn't in my experience. Because once when Vaheguru Ji comes into my experience, becomes my anubhav, becomes my reality, and then Sangat Ji, then nobody can convince me any other way. Nobody, then it doesn't matter how much somebody, doesn't matter how compelling, doesn't matter how strong of an argument somebody might put on the table, it doesn't matter anymore. It's not even where Pacha Ji talks about in Sri Darbar Sahib that Sun Vadda Aakhe Sab Koe, Kevat Vadda Dita Hoye. There's so many people that are talking about that one being so great, Vadda being so great and big and huge in whichever way. Sab Aakhe Sare Aakhde ne Sun Aakhe. Pacha but how great is that one? Sun vadda aakhe sab koe ke vad vadda dita hoye. Kende ke vad. But how great that one is, kende dita, kende dekh ke. Kende when we have experienced that one, then we'll know. And once par paach kende har bisrat. But when we live in that when we live completely in our head, we live completely in our thoughts. When we live completely stuck in our head, in our thoughts, and we don't get to go to that space, to that place where we're actually experiencing that one, and we become that, where we can be aware of even the thoughts that they are separate. When we start to become aware that this body, I'm something that is beyond this body. Sangat Ji, sometimes you can do these little experiments with yourself. You can lie down, you can close your eyes, sit, and you can just visualize, start taking away each body part. And as you start taking away each body part, and you're in this awareness, you're doing it with complete awareness, you take away your foot and you know that you still exist. Even if somebody's foot is cut off, they still exist. But Sangatji, as we start doing that and we start removing each body part, and we go to a place but we still exist. We go to a place then, even when these thoughts are removed, when we're thoughtless, then we still exist then. And when we start to experience that one and that complete Anand Swaroop, then Sangatji, then there is no ruin for us. Then nothing can actually deceive us. But our root, the root cause of all our suffering, it is living in this ignorance, is not knowing that truth, that reality. And some people have it for a little moment. And the little moment is good, because that little moment is beautiful, because it's like this. It's like standing outside of an house, but the door is closed, and then from other great people, from other people that have experienced that one, tell you about that one, tell you how amazing it is when you actually experience that one, when you're with that one, when you meet that one. And when they अंदरों उन्हां वल्लों सुन के तो अंदरों चाह पैदा हुंदा आ, and then it sets this yearning off inside of us when they describe that about that one. And then Sangatji, with that, what we do is we call out to that one. We stand at the door of that one, and then we cry out to that one, and then we say to that one, Keso, Keso. And then Sangatji, that Kabir, Keso, Keso, Kukiye. We start then crying out to that one. And then we're saying that, open that door, because I'm suffering. I'm still at the moment. Yes, there's something inside of me saying to me that there's got to be more. There's got to be someone that is there, that is in control, that is powering all of this creation. There's somebody that is making all of this magic happen, that has designed this magic. That it's just that how we're all working, we're all interlinked, working together with each other. That how that tree is giving off carbon, giving off oxygen. And then that oxygen contained into that air is going inside of me, and as then I am, and as that converts, as that gas converts, and then I breathe out carbon dioxide, and how then the tree is taking that in, how we're all working together, how this link is all created and made, and who is behind that is making all this work. And as somebody tells us about that Pritam, about that beloved, and then there's something inside of us that opens our heart and starts to yearn for that one, doesn't start to believe in that one. Believing, Sangatji, keeps us very stagnant, but yearning to know that what we yet do not, that hasn't come into our experience yet, hasn't become our anubhav yet, our gyan yet, hasn't become our knowing yet. Knowledge, Sangatji, is something that somebody tells us from their wisdom, from their knowing. That is knowledge. Somebody knows something and they pass that on to us. But as that is passed on to us, still when it sits inside of us, it's still knowledge until we don't actually experience that. Once we experience it, then it becomes our knowing. And then when we actually then, Sangatji, at the moment, we've received this beautiful these beautiful gems of wisdom of somebody else's experience. And then instead of closing our mind to it, instead of saying that I don't believe that, or instead of saying I believe that, I open my heart to it, and then, just like people say, have an open mind, and then this yearning starts. It's that yearning that makes me then call to that one. Kabir keso kukiye. But then I cry out to that one, to want to know that one so deep inside of me. That cry comes from that cry comes from this place of what? Kabir keso kukiye na soye. That I don't go to sleep anymore. What does it mean I don't go to sleep anymore? That I remain completely aware to this. I'm actually now, it's not that I'm not just saying Vaheguru without even realizing what I'm saying, what I'm doing. There's no focus there. There's no attention there. There's no weight behind it. It's just this dry mechanical machine that is just going round and round and round. I'm just saying Vaheguru. And then I'm asking the question, why do I still feel so low? Why do I still feel so much anxiety? But I'm saying Vaheguru, are we actually saying it? Are we actually saying it? Because the truth is, in this world, it might work like that without even a thought. You might just even accidentally might be just sitting there saying your partner's name, for example. You could just say one of your child's name, and you could just be saying it by accident, and they'll just turn up and say, and they could say, did you call me? And you're like, no. And they're like, yes, he did. He just said my name. And you're like, oh, right. I didn't even realize. Must have said it. Unawareness. But the game with Vaheguru Ji doesn't work with unawareness. It works with full devotion. And in that full devotion, when it comes from that place of where Bhagat Kabir Ji is saying, Kabir, keso kukiye, na soye asar. Kabir, keso kukiye, na soye asar. But we can't fall asleep in unawareness. We've got to actually be calling that one. We've got to actually, it's because Vaheguru Ji hears the actual sound. The actual sound that is from inside. So if we're outside that door, and that door, imagine we're outside a house, but the one that is living in that house, doesn't imagine there's somebody that lives in a particular house that if you shout out and you're not actually calling that person from inside. So you might say that person's name who lives inside of that house, but your inside is hoping that they don't hear you. Your inside is completely asleep. And your inside wants something else instead. Your inside is focused on something. It wants something else. But you just say that person's name. But the thing about this person that is inside, the way the makeup of that one is that is inside of this particular house, they actually hear what you are asking for from inside. So what your deep inner desire is, the owner of this house, this mansion, can hear that inside voice. So the inner of that inner knower starts to actually listen to that and starts to provide you and give you that, and starts to make everything happen around you to work towards getting that what is inside of you. Sangaji, if I could communicate and I could actually talk to you I'd be asking you this question at the moment. Are you keeping up with me? So there's no rush. Make this into a meditation. Really contemplate this deeply. But the moment you say from inside, I want you, Vaheguru, I want you. And then that one, because that one listens to what's coming from inside, because that's how it works. And then that one starts to come towards opening that door. And this is how Vaheguru Ji works. But Bhai Veer Singh Ji said you can't be looking the other way. It's got to be Keso. Keso is just another name for Vaheguru. Keso means the long-haired Vaheguru. Just another way of describing that one. Kabir Keso. Kukiye means to cry. But the cry has got to be an inner cry. I was watching somebody's presentation the other day, and this person was going through and telling a story about themselves, but you could see how that story was just coming from such a surface level. Because behind telling that story, the story of themselves, their own personal journey, apparently, but it was coming from a very surface level, so you couldn't actually, it felt uncomfortable and you couldn't actually feel it. Why? Because there was an intention behind telling that story. And that intention was to make money out of you hearing this person's story. The intention wasn't compassion and love. The intention was, you hear the story and I can make this money. So Sangat Ji, Garib Nawaz Sache Paatshah is saying to us that where is it coming from? That Kabir keso kukiye na soye asar. You can't be looking the other way now. Because if you are calling to that one that's in the house, but you're looking that way means, but your inside is actually calling for something else. It's not yet become a cry. The cry from inside is still worldly riches, is still worldly status, is still whatever it may be. May my organization flourish, but instead of it being that, Vaheguru, all I want is you. I just want your door to open to me. If the inside is crying something else, I just need to make it in this life. Need people to know me. That would mean then you're looking that way, you're looking the other way, but the door is in front of you. Your body is facing the door, but your face is facing the other way. This is Bhai Veer Singh explains it like this. So you're at the door, so dar. Oda dar, that one's door, dar means door. But Sangji, so kar keha, but what is that house like? You can only know what that house is like if you get to go through that door. But the moment you're actually facing that door and you're calling, your cry is coming from inside, then Kabir keso kukiye na soye asar. But if you don't fall asleep in unawareness, where your focus is on something else, on you actually just making it and becoming somebody big in this life or whatever it may be, then Sangatji, that door will not open. But the door starts to open of the house of that one when you're facing that way. And Sangat ji, there's those people that when the door opens, you get to have a glimpse of that inside, and then you are just in this awe. But now you want to go inside of that house. But Sangat ji, but once you get to that point, when you get a little glimpse that there's something beyond these thoughts, there's something beyond this body, there's something beyond this material world, there's something beyond all of this, there's something beyond even my emotions. There's something beyond. Emotions is, for example, an emotion of, you could be in the emotion of sadness. Experiencing, the emotion is the experience. Feeling is being aware of experiencing that. So if I say I'm feeling sad means that you're in the awareness of what emotion is happening within you. Whatever emotion is happening within you, going even beyond that. And you have a glimpse of that. You don't have to believe in that anymore. Now you know that one exists. But still you haven't fully got into the door yet. Because there's still this inside, something's holding me back. Because inside there's still this element of fear. That if I go through, will I ever return? The truth is no, you won't return. What is it that won't return? The ego will not return. The ego will not remain once you go through that door. The concept of living in ignorance of I am. But sometimes we're afraid and we want to hold on to that. But Bhagat Kabir ji se Kabir जिस मरने ते जग डरै मेरे मन आनंद. Kabir ji saying, you know that death, the death of living in the ignorance of I am, of whatever we identify ourselves with, and that's all we believe, that's all we know ourselves to be. That I am this part of this culture, I am this religion. But I want to hold on to that. But isn't this me? Isn't this my identity? Sangat ji, there's that fear of letting go, of being that. Sangat ji, but once you become the truth, once you go into that house where you have to let go, to go into that house, when you go into that house, then there is only but the truth left. Then Sangat ji, then yes, you can use that religion as a tool, but you know you are not actually that. Yes, you can identify yourself as that, but you know you are but you know what you actually are. You're using that identity as now a means of being in this world, of communicating in this world. But now you're not the puppet that's being played anymore. Now you've gone beyond that. You've gone now to where you can actually take something on and off as you want. Being stuck in ego means that now you're wearing a particular mask and you can't get rid of it. And you end up thinking I am that, and you just can't. You're not in control anymore. Being in control means that even this this I am, I can be that for a certain time, that I know now that I need to communicate with my children from this mask at the moment, as at the moment I need to discipline and be assertive at this moment. But I know that's not what I am. But now I'm in control and I can wear that mask and I can remove it because I know that's not me. Stuck in ego means when you hold on to that mask and say, I don't want to let go of this mask because you're afraid, thinking that you're going to lose your personality. Har bisrat sada khwari. But without experiencing that one, we're always going to continue to suffer in some form of way. Tako tokha kaha beape jako ot tohari. Padsha ji saying that Tako tokha. Sangat ji, so just finishing that off. You know, sometimes if we sit down to dedicate our time to Naam Simran, let's at least know that we can dedicate, even if it be 5 minutes, but these 5 minutes need to be, I need to now create the environment that is gonna help me. I need to create a conducive environment for me, myself, to be able to connect so that it doesn't remain empty what I'm doing. I've got to try, if I'm struggling to connect to that one, then I've got to put in every possible measure in place that can help me to create the right environment for me to actually connect. And there's no perfect way, but there's certain things that have worked for a lot of people. And that is when you sit down, whether it be you take out those 5 minutes, try and let it be after having only something very light to eat, or at least a few hours gap from eating, where you've not really consumed any caffeine for a good few hours, where you wear something very light to wear, you're wearing something very comfortable and light and loose, where you sit in a quiet place where there's no distractions. These are all very important in the beginning. Try and sit in the same place, same spot, around the same time. Have your eyes closed throughout that period. If you're really, really struggling because you're experiencing some form of intrusive thoughts or anxiety, then if you need your eyes open, leave your eyes open, but then maybe even light a candle and just focus on the light of that candle. But if it can be, then try and get it so that it's an actual lamp, and an oil lit lamp of what we call the jyot that some people light up, or the jyot, made out so that it's burning the ghee, because that gives off a very pleasant sense of aroma, and focus on that. I'm not saying that that's how you get to God. Please don't get any of this wrong. I'm trying to just reach to anyone at any, depending on what level they may be at, and they might need more and more assistance, and there's nothing wrong with needing assistance. It's better than not getting there, but not becoming reliant on that and not making it a ritual that that's how it's got to be done. No, there is no actual way to say that you've got to be seated in a certain posture. Is it got to be done like that? No, it can happen in any way when you connect. You could be walking around looking at a tree and bang, it's done. But we're talking about the greatest of meditators that have found means and found ways of connecting, and these ways have proved to be ways that have made us more conducive, more receptive. And Sangatji, and then even if it's a minute, I said 5 minutes, even if it's a minute, but try and make it absolute quality. Don't think about the time. It has to be for this long. I have to have said it this many times. How many times can I say it from here? And crying out to that one in that way then. And when the cry comes from inside, the door will open. And once we get a glimpse of that door, but we haven't yet gone in, but we know from that moment that there's nothing as beautiful and as great as this, then it can intensify our yearning. But that will take a lot of strength, because there'll still be a lot of pull in this Maya-filled world, in all these different colors that we get caught up in this world, in the different pleasures that we get caught up in the pleasures of, be it sexual desires, be it food, be it whatever it may be. And then we think that we're going to lose all of that if we go through that door. But no, we don't lose that. Instead, we then are in a position of actually enjoying something, because normally we become addicted to something, it's controlling us. So Sangatji, these hukamnaama explanations shouldn't just be a ritual. It should be shifting our lives in the way we practice our meditations and connecting to that one. When I take that one support, I can only take that one support if I've started to get glimpses of that one. And when I get glimpses of that one and I take the support of that being in that beautiful place, then how can anything deceive me? Then how can food deceive me? What does it mean for something to deceive us, to become, for us to be deceived? It means that I had this expectation of this will give me eternal bliss. I had this expectation in this Maya that this will give me eternal bliss, but it didn't. It only lasted a certain amount of time, so now I'm suffering. I'm suffering due to that expectation that I had of what my desire, upon achieving my desire, what it was going to actually give me. But because it hasn't done that for me, now I'm suffering. And that way it's deceived us. In that way, achieving our desire, and behind the desire was this hope, and the hope that I had was eternal happiness. It did not provide, so now I'm suffering. So now I'm in pain. But when you know that when you've experienced Vaheguru and you know that is eternal happiness and that is that place of bliss, then none of these desires can actually deceive you. Then nothing, but then you know, no, that's not the truth. That even if I do have a child, having a child, obviously nothing wrong with it. You know, having that that inside, that there's that drive to have a child. But if behind that drive there is something saying, this will do it for me, this will be, this is it, this will do it for me, this will give me what I needed, this will give me that happiness and contentment I've been looking for, then we've been deceived. Then we living in this deception of this maya. But how can those be deceived? Those that have experienced the truth, they know, okay, yes, we've got a drive to have children, but it's not so that they can give me happiness. But even behind that, it's just so I can deepen my relationship with that one. And I could spread that joy. I could spread that inner joy of the relationship I have with that one to this child that is going to be coming into this world. Bin simran jo jeevan balana sarp jaise arjari Paj Singh. But without the remembrance of that one is what? Is like this. Kande jo jeevan balana sarp jaise arjari. Kande just like throughout the long life, arjari means life, of a snake, sarp meaning snake. Kande that snake burns throughout its life with the poison that it has within itself. Kande but without that experience of God, then living in those desires that are filled with hopes, then we are gonna continue to burn constantly throughout our life. Navkhandan ko Raj kamave ant chale go na hari. Paj Singh, even if you have power over the 9 continents of this world, 9 sections of this world, kande ant chale go hari, but you'll still go losing the game of life if you haven't connected to that one and realized the truth. And still, people throughout the world know you, but you still are not satisfied. You've gone from here lost. Gun nidaan gun tin hi gaye jako kirpa tari. But those, Sangat Ji, when Vaheguru Ji showers their grace upon them, then what do? They sing they sing of the beautiful qualities and virtues of that one. Jo so sukhiya tan us janma. Paj Singh so sukhiya. But that person is truly happy. Paj Ji saying that kande tan us janma. That person's life is blessed, that has actually spent their life praising that one. Kande Nanak tis balahari, I'm a sacrifice to that one. So Sangat Ji, that even though I planned something completely different this morning, the angle I was going to take, using a Sakhi, using a story, but it became a bit more about meditation and connecting from inside and calling to that one from inside, calling that one from inside. Sangat Ji, that one will hear that voice. I say this very regularly, but the truth is we can't hear it enough until it becomes our truth. So even Katha sometimes should be like Simran, like something repetitive, so that it embeds in us, so that Christ starts to come deep from inside of us, asking that one to open that door to that mansion, because only within that mansion is Sukh, is that true bliss, which is eternal. Vaheguru Ji ka